It has been a week, folks.
And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man.
That's right.
Of the seed of man.
The word seed is sperm, and sperm comes through having sex.
It's shut out of your father's rod.
Right.
Put it in layman terms, in his penis.
That's right.
That means a man put his penis in a woman and bust off in it.
Then the angel said to him, "Take out the entrails of this fish, and lay up his heart and his gall and his liver for thee. For these are necessary for useful medicines."
The rest of the chapters of the book of Esther,
Go ahead.
which are found neither in the Hebrew nor in the Chaldee.
Greetings, fellow worker slaves, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts is in my lap demanding attention. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and his cat. Get over it. This is an Ethiopian Apocrypha episode where Skullbeard and I read a book or two from the Ethiopian Apocrypha. Next episode will be a news episode. Okay, this will be just a short rundown of what happened to me this past week. Once again, I worked 12-hour days. On Tuesday afternoon, when I was coming home from work, one of the landlord's handymen stopped me and said that there was a water leak under my trailer and he'd cut the water off. He wasn't exactly sure where the leak was coming from other than the back of the trailer. There were a couple of things which ran through my mind when I heard this. The first was that I wasn't certain that it was actually my trailer that had the leak. Several times in the past, they thought that my trailer had a water leak only for it to turn out to be the trailer behind mine. The second was, if it was my trailer, what could possibly be leaking? My biggest worry was that my water heater had gone, as that's not a cheap fix. My other thought was that it might be the toilet in the master bathroom. The valve had a slow leak when it was open, and I hadn't been able to replace it, so I'd just cut the water off to the toilet. I thought maybe that the valve had completely broken and was dumping water on the floor. Neither was a good scenario and certain to be an expensive repair. As it turned out, I got somewhat lucky. When I cut the water back on to figure out where the leak was, after checking to make sure that there wasn't any water on the floor of the trailer, it sounded like the leak was coming from inside the wall where the shower is. Of course, with me working 12-hour days, there was fuck all I could do about it. I cut the water back off, bought a jug of water at the nearby Stop and Rob, took a sponge bath, and went to bed. When I got off work the following day, I checked into a hotel. With as nasty as I get at work, a sponge bath wasn't going to cut it for keeping me clean, and I don't know anybody close by that I could get to let me take a shower at their place. I spent the rest of the week at the hotel, stopping by the trailer after I got off work to check on the cats and make sure that they had plenty of food and water. Then it was back to the hotel to sleep for a few hours before going into work. Now, as you can tell, I've still got some kind of sinus thing going on. When I went to the doc in the box, they said that if it didn't clear up after the antibiotics, I should see a general practitioner to get checked out for what it might be. I'm better, but I'm still not 100% yet, and well, with all the hours I've been working, I haven't been able to find a general practitioner, so I've been struggling along with my illness. On Thursday, I thought perhaps it might be my allergies acting up, so I bought some allergy medicine and took it. I noticed on the package that it said, "may cause drowsiness." It should have said, "Warning, this shit will put your ass in a fucking coma." I was barely able to wake up enough to call into work that night because of how groggy that shit made me. I literally slept close to 24 hours and it completely threw my sleep schedule out of whack. I spent Friday figuring out where the trailer was leaking and trying to find someone who could take me to the store on Saturday to get the parts I needed. The leak, it turned out, was in the pipes running under the trailer up to the shower. Unfortunately, I didn't discover this until after I ripped out the wall in the shower. Not that it mattered, because the section of pipe that was leaking was in such a spot that I couldn't get to it unless I removed the tub. That's a 2-person all-day job, and it just wasn't going to happen this weekend. What I wound up doing was cutting the pipes below the part that was leaking and capping them off. While I did that, I also fixed the leaky toilet valve. So I gained a toilet, but lost a shower. Thankfully, I have a spare shower, so I can still bathe. I will, however, have to make repairs to everything before winter gets here, or I'll have frozen pipes in the bathroom. When that will be, I don't know, because I have no idea of when work is going to slow down enough that I'll have the time to think about such things. One of the ironies of my current job is that it pays enough for me to handle emergencies like this to a degree, but denies me the time I need to be able to deal with it. A good chunk of my overtime money went for those 3 days I spent in the hotel room. If I had been working on any of my previous jobs, I don't know what I would have done. I certainly couldn't have afforded the $100 in parts that I needed, let alone the hotel room. As for my father, he still lives. I don't know for how much longer. I expected that he'd pass last weekend, but that didn't happen. It is not a happy situation, and there's really not anything more that I can say about it. Ash continues to fill out and seems to have finally accepted me as his servant. I still haven't tried introducing him in Fuzznuts yet, as that's a long process and I don't really have the time or energy to focus on such things right now. Okay, that's enough of my prattling. Let's get to Skullbeard and I reading from the Ethiopian Apocrypha. This section is the last of the first book of the Apocrypha. It's still a lot of incomprehensible gibberish, and I only lightly edited this recording, partly out of time considerations and also because it shows that we're having as much trouble reading this shit as you are in listening to it.
Him give food for crows, chicks, and for beasts that beg him. Upon the time them cried toward him, him will save him, Israel children, from them enemies' hands who delayed from the time. That makes no sense to me. And them will return toward sin again, that them might sadden him, and him will arouse them enemies, peoples in a them area upon them. Them will downstroy them, and kill them, and capture them. And again, them will shout toward Jah in a mountain and sadness. And there are the time when him sent help and saved them by prophets' hands.
And there are the time when him saved them by princes' hands, and upon the time them saddened Jah, them enemies taxed them and captured them. And Dawid arose and saved them from the Iloflan's hands, and again them saddened Jah, and Jah aroused upon them peoples who worry them. And there are the time when him saved them by Yoftahai hand, and again them forgot Jah who saved them in a them tribulation time, as Jah have brought the hardship upon them. Him will arouse upon them enemies who are evil, who will firm up tribulation upon them, and totally capture them.
And upon the time them were worried by tribulation, them were seized, and again cried toward him, and him saved them by Gideon hand. And again them saddened by Jah by them hands' work. And again him aroused upon them peoples who firm up tribulation upon them, and them returned and wept and cried toward Jah. And again him saved them from peoples by Samson hand, and them rested lickily from the tribulation, and them arose that them might sadden Jah by them former sin.
And again him aroused upon them other people who worry them, and again them cried and wept toward Jah that him might send help for them, and him saved them from peoples by Barak and Deborah hands. Again them lived a little season while them worshipped Jah, and again them forgot Jah into them former sin and saddened him, and him aroused upon them other peoples who worry them, and again him saved them by Yodit hand, and having sat again a little season, them arose that them might sadden Jah by them sin like unto formerly.
There we go. And him aroused upon them peoples who ruled them, and them cried and wept toward Jah. For him have struck upon him head Abimelech, who were a warrior who came that night might fight Yehidra country. And him saved them by the children in the area, and by Mattai hand. And upon the time that warrior dead, him army fled, and were scattered, and Israel children followed and fought him up till Elabach. And them didn't preserve even one person from them. After this, them waited a licky, and arose them that might sadden Jah, and him aroused upon them peoples who ruled them. And again, them totally cried toward Jah, and Jah ignored them crying, and them mountain, for them have saddened Jah every time, and for them have demolished him law.
And them captured and took them with them priests toward Babylon person's country. And then Israel children who were traitors didn't quit saddening Jah while them worked sin and worshipped idols. Jah vexed that him might downstroy them one time into them sin. Hama, having introduced 10,000 gold into the king box, upon the day when it were known, him lodged anger into the king Artaxerxes reasoning, lest him preserve them children in a far country, beginning from Hindeki and up till Ethiopia. Ethiopia, I think.
Yeah.
Upon the time him told him that him might downstroy them. Him did thus, and him wrote a letter where a message were written by the king authority, and him gave him a seal in a him hand that him might deliver toward far's country.
Him gave him a seal that him might downstroy them upon one day, when him loved them for downstroy them like unto the king commanded. Okay, so this seems to be saying, yeah, I'm going to give you this thing, and since you like these people so much, you get to kill them.
What a dick.
Yeah, but him commanded that him might introduce them money, the gold and the silver, toward the king box. So, apparently these people don't have money, and he's like, here, go there, give them the concept of money, and then take it and give it to me.
Nice.
Yeah, bad dick moves all around. And upon the time Israel children heard this thing, them totally cried and wept toward Jah, and them told it for Merdokios, and Merdokios told for Astir. And Astir said, fast, beg, and all Israel children kindreds cry toward Jah in the place where Unu are.
And Merdokios wore sackcloth and sprinkled dust upon his wrath self, and Israel children fasted, begged, and entered repentance into the country where them were. And Astir were totally sad, and being a queen, she wore sackcloth. She sprinkled dust and shaved she head, and she didn't anoint perfume like unto far's queens anoint perfume. And in a she deep reasoning, she cried and wept toward she father's arator Jah. And because his thing him gave, she being loved alongside far's king Artaxerxes, and she made a kind lunch for she fathers a Rhetor.
And Hama and the king entered toward the lunch that Aster prepared, and like unto him loved that him might do pon Merkidos. Jah paid the hardship pon that Hama, and them hanged him pon a tall wood. The king letter were commanded that them might quit Israel like unto them were in all them accord, and lest them tax them, nor rob them, nor wrong them, nor take them money pon them. As Jah shall pardon Israel, doing thus pon the time them cried entering repentance, it are that them might love them and honor them in our far's country where them lived. Yet a king letter were commanded lest them downstroy them country, nor plunder them livestocks. And pon them time them saddened him will arouse pon them peoples who worry them. At that time, them will totally weep and cry that him might send them help for them, and that him might save them from people's hand who firm up tribulation pon them.
Seems like a lot of guys are getting pwned here.
Yep.
And upon the time Gibbs person, Egypt's person also made Israel children work by making them work bricks in a difficulty, and upon the time them worried them all the work by kicking mud without straw and heating bricks. And upon the time them made them work, having appointed chiefs upon them, who rush workers, them cried toward Jah that him might save them from working all Egypt's bricks. And that time him sent for them Aaron and Musi, who helped them, for Jah have sent them that them might send forth him kindreds from Pharaoh rulership house, and him save them from brickwork, because in him arrogance him refuted for adjourn Israel, lest them be ruled and sacrifice for Jah in a wilderness. Jah have sent them that them might send forth him kindreds Israel from Egypt's king Pharaoh house, and them save them. Okay.
So, this is...
We're back to Moses in Egypt.
Yep.
Build pyramids, let my people go.
Yep. None of which could have possibly happened.
No.
For Jah neglect arrogant ones, and him drown for on in a Eritrea sea with him army because him arrogance. Again, did not happen. And like unto him shall downstroy them who didn't work goodly work in all the kingdoms that him pointed and crowned them, that them who ignore Jah were, when them are nobles and kings, might fulfill him accord for him, and that them might give persons who serve in a goodly thing them wage, and that them might honor him famous name. Jah who rule all said, but if them will straighten up our kingdom, our man will straighten up them kingdom for them. Okay, so this appears to be God saying, look, if you fix everything in your kingdom, then I'll fix your kingdom.
Yep. The mysterious ways, and helps those who help themselves.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know. Work goodly work for I, and I man shall work goodly work for Unu. Keep I law, and I man shall keep Unu your bodies. Live firmed up in I law, and I man shall live lodging honestly in a Unu like unto your reasoning. Love I, and I man shall love your welfare. Near toward I, and I man shall heal Unu. Jah, who rule all, said, believe in I, and I man shall save Unu from the tribulation.
Don't live side by side, as Jah who rule all loves straight work, him said. But, you know, that fashion stuff, I just can't handle that. Unu approach toward I, and I man shall approach toward Unu. Unu persons who are sinners and traitors, cleanse your hands from sin, and disgrace your reasonings from evil. Man, do I wish certain religious leaders in the U.S. would follow that practice. And I man shall distance I anger from Unu, and I man shall return for Unu in a charity and forgiveness.
I man shall distance criminals and enemies who work iniquity from Unu, like unto I man saved I slave Dawit from him enemies who met him, from them much malice, and from Goliad hand, who were a warrior, and also from Saul hand, who sought that him might kill him, and from him child Absalom hand, who loved that him might take him kingdom.
Goliad, I'm guessing, is Goliath.
It could be.
If Dawit is David, then, Goliath is most likely Goliath.
Yeah, that's plausible. I man shall save persons who keep I law and fulfill I accord like unto him. I man shall bequeath them honor, and them shall be Irie into the present world, and yonder into the world that shall come. I man shall crown them upon all that them might be Irie. Them shall be one with kings who serve Jah, and were honored in them beautiful way of life, like unto the prophet Samuel, served him in him beautiful way of life, beginning from him infancy, whom Jah, him being law, chose. Him told him that him might tell Eli, who were a servant elder, and when him served in a Jah lodge in the temple, Samuel were merciful, and I loved.
And upon the time him grew when him served in a Jah lodge in the temple, him made him for be appointed and anointed, that him might appoint him people, and that kings might be anointed by Jah accord, as Jah have loved him, that the kindred him chose from Israel children might be appointed, upon the time him fulfilled Jah accord who I rated him, and him gave him the iotnid of the kingdom in him hand. And when Saul were in him kingdom, Jah told him prophet Samuel, go, and as I man have loved icy child Dawit, who were birthed from Yehudah kin, anoint him. Okay.
God's got a lot of talky bits here.
Yeah.
I man have hated Saul kin, for him have saddened I, because him violated I word, and I man neglected him, for him didn't keep I law, and I man won't crown from him kin again. And persons who didn't keep I law, and I word, and I order, like unto him, I man shall downstroy I kingdom, and I gift from them children up till the eternity.
And as them didn't make I famous upon the time I made them famous, I man shall downstroy them. Yet I man won't again return for lift them up. Wait, so this means Jesus ain't coming back? Though I man honor them as them didn't honor, I man won't make them famous. So I'm going to make them famous, but if they don't honor me, I'm not going to make them famous. So you won't hear of them.
15 minutes, man. 15 minutes tops.
Yep. And as them didn't make I a ruler upon the time I made them rulers upon all, as didn't honor I upon the time I man honored them more than all, I man won't make them famous again nor honor them, and for them didn't keep I law.
I guess fame is fleeting.
Yeah.
And I man withheld the gift I man gave them, and I man won't return the money I man withheld from them, like unto the measure I man vexed and swore. Jah, who ruled all, said thus, him said, I man shall honor them who honored I, and love them who loved I man shall separate them who didn't honor I, nor keep I law from the gift I man gave them. Jah, who rule all, said, I man love them who loved I, and make famous him who made I famous, him said.
As I man Jah am who rule all, there are none who escape I authority in earth nor heaven. But if you're in hell, you're outside his authority. So,
sweet.
Yep. For I man am Jah, who kill and who save and who sadden and who forgive. As famousness and honor are I money, I man honor him whom I loved. For I man am who judge and who revenge and downstroy. And I man make wretched him whom I man hated. For I am who forgive them who love I, who love I, and call I name every time. Oh God, oh God, oh God. For I am who feed food for the wealthy and for the poor.
And I man feed birds and animals, fishes in a sea, and beasts and flowers, yet I man art who feed only man. I man feed crocodiles and whales, badgers and hippos, and aquisthan?
Whatever the fuck that is.
I don't know. And all that live within water, all that fly upon wind, yet I man art who feed only man. All this are I money. I man am who feed all that seek I by all that are due and I loved. This guy seems to have a lot of love.
Something like that. And the kings who don't reign without I accord, and sufferers are by I command. Yet them aren't poor without I command, and powerful ones are by I accord. Yet them aren't strong without I accord. I man gave being I loved for Dawid, and wisdom for Solomon, and I man added eras for Ezekiel. I man diminished Goliad era, and I man gave power for Samson, and again I man weakened him power.
And I man saved I slave Dawid from Goliad, and who were a warrior. And again I man saved him from the king's Saul hand, and from the second warrior who disputed him. And for him have kept I command, and I man saved him from the person's hand who dispute him and fight him. And I man loved him, and I man love all the nobles and the kings who keep I law, as them have made I irie. I man shall give them prevailing and power upon them enemies. And again, that them might inherit them fathers' land, I man shall give them the cleansed and shining land of inheritance that I man swore for them fathers.
Okay. Jah, who rule all, said, and Unu the nobles and also the kings hear I in a word, and keep I command, lest Unu sadden I, and worship like unto Israel children sadden I, and worship different idols, them whom I man kept and saved when I man Jah am them I radar. Jesus, I don't know. Jah, who rule all, said, hear I in a I would, and all whom I man raised and loved and fed, beginning that them were birthed from them mother and father, and whom I man sent forth toward earth crops, and whom I man fed the fatness found from earth, making like unto our dew, and whom I man gave the grapevine and the oil tree fruit that them didn't plant, and the clear water well that them didn't dig. I hear in a word, lest Unu sadden I, like unto Israel children, sadden I worshipping other idols, when I man Jah am their Irator, him told them, who fed them the sheep milk and the honeycomb with the hulled wheat, and who clothed them clothes where ornament are, and who gave them all love. And without it living that I man deprive them all, begged I.
Like unto Dawit spoke, saying, Israel children were fed the manna that angels lowered, and again heard I in I word, lest Unu sadden, I like unto Israel children sadden, I worshipping the idols when I man am them Irator Jah, who fed them sweet manna in a wilderness, him said, I man did all this for them, that them might worship I by what are due and for true. Jah, who rule all, said, but them didn't worship, and I man neglected them. Them saddened I, and lived firmed up in a law of idols that weren't I law. Then I man shall bring the hardship upon them, like unto them sin, as them have neglected I worship, and as them didn't firm up in a I counsel, and I order, I man neglected them into the sin measure that them worked by them hands, and I man shall lower them toward Gehenna in a definite judgment that are done in a heaven.
For them didn't keep I law, and for I man vex upon them, and I man shall diminish them era in this world. If thou be a king, art thou a man who shall dead and be demolished, and tomorrow who shall be worms and dust? But today thou boast and are proud, like unto a man who won't dead forever. So, okay.
A little bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah. Jah who rule all said, but thou who are side up being well today are a man who will dead tomorrow.
But if Unu keep I command, and I word, I man shall bequeath thee I honored country with honored kings, who did I accord, whose lodging were light, and whose crowns were beautiful, and whose thrones were silver and gold, and whom persons who sit upon them adorned, him said. And them shall be airy with him country, that are a place that approached for persons who worked goodly work. But for persons who work sin, as them didn't keep I law, said Jah, who rule all, it aren't due them that them might enter towards that country where honored kings shall enter.
Median kingdom shall perish, but Ram kingdom, that's where the Space Knight lives.
Yeah, I remember that comic from a long time ago.
It was a toy first, and then it became a comic.
I was never that lucky.
A friend of mine had the toy. I never did. Ram kingdom shall totally firm up upon Macedonia kingdom. I guess that's Macedonian. And Ninui kingdom shall firm up upon Far's kingdom. And I have no idea what Ninui kingdom or Far's kingdom could be. And Ethiopia kingdom shall firm up upon Iskanderia kingdom. As peoples shall arise, Moab kingdom shall firm up upon Amalek kingdom. And Breda shall rise upon him brother, and Jah shall revenge and downstroy like unto him spoke, that it might perish.
Kingdom shall arise upon kingdom, and the people upon the people, and country upon country, him said. And argument shall be done, and there shall be formations, famine, plague, earthquake, drought, as love have perished from this world. Jah chastisement downscended upon she. For the day have arrived suddenly when Jah shall come, who frighten like unto lightning that are sight up from east up till west.
Upon the day when him Jah judge judgment. That's a bit redundant. At that time everyone shall receive him hardship, like unto him hand weakness, and him sin firmness. For him have said, I man shall revenge them upon the day when him judgment, and upon the day when them feet are hindered, for the day when them are counted for downstruction have arrived. At that time Jah shall downstroy in a Gehenna forever persons who won't live firmed up in a him law who work sin. Okay. And them who live in the West Islands and Nubia and Hindiki, Saba and Ethiopia and Egypt persons, all persons who live in them.
At that time shall know I that I man were Jah who rule earth and heaven, and who give being I love and honor, and who save a who kill. I man who send forth sun, who sent it toward setting, who bring the evil and the good. Hey, that's Isaiah 45:7. I man am who bring peoples whom Unu don't know, who slaughter and eat the money whereby Unu wearied your sheeps and your cows' flocks.
And them shall capture your children while them hammer them before Unu, and Unu can save them, because Jah spirit of support didn't lodge in a Unu, as Unu didn't fear Jah command that Unu heard. Him shall destroy your lavishments and your assignments. But a person in a whom Jah spirit of support lodged will know all, like unto Nebuchadnezzar and told Daniel, saying, My side up Jah spirit of support that lodged in the eye. And person in whom Jah spirit of support lodged will know all. And what were hidden will be revealed for him, and him will know all that were revealed and that were hidden, yet there are nothing hidden from a person in whom Jah spirit of support lodged.
But as any are persons who will dead tomorrow, any sins that any hid and work shall be revealed. And like unto them test silver and gold in a fire, like unto there are sinners. Later upon the day of Advent shall them be examined, for them didn't keep Jah command. At that time all the peoples and all Israel children's work shall be examined.
As Jah vexed pon Unu, because Unu didn't judge a truth judgment for the child whose mother and father dead pon him. Woe for Unu Israel nobles. Woe for Unu persons who go toward a drinking house morning and evening and get drunk, who are partial in a judgment, and who don't hear the widow justice nor the child whose mother and father dead pon him, who live in a sin and seduce it. Jah told Israel nobles, saying thus, Unless Unu lived firmed up in our command and kept our law and loved what our man loved, woe for Unu, him told them.
And our man shall bring down destruction and chastisement and tribulation upon Unu, and Unu will perish like unto what weevils and moths ate, and your tracks and your region won't be found, him told them. And your country will be a wilderness, and all persons who sight she up formerly shall clap them hands. Them shall marvel upon she, while them said, Weren't this country filled of sheep plenty, and all who loved it? Jah made she thus by persons sin who live in a she. Them shall say, And she have made the heart proud, and as she have elevated her wrath self, and as she have firmed up the collar of reasoning up till Jah make she wretched upon earth, and as she shall be a desert by persons arrogance who live in a she, and as thorns have grown upon she with thistles, woe for she. And she grow weeds and astenagir, as she became a wilderness and a desert, and beasts shall live within she, for Jah judgments have firmed up upon she, and for she shall receive Jah judgment chalice, because she reasoned in arrogance by persons sin, who live in a she, and she became frightening for persons who go towards she. Woof.
Yeah. Macedon persons, don't boast, as Jah are there who shall downstroy Unu. Amalekians, don't firm up your collar of reasoning. Yeah, don't think. That's stupid. For Unu will be lofty up till heaven, and Unu will downsend up till Gehenna. Upon the time Israel formerly entered toward Egypt's country in a Moab and Midian kingdom, him said, don't boast, for it ought do for pretend pon Jah, that Unu might pretend pon him.
Thou, Ishmael, kindred slave child, why do thou firm up thy collar of reasoning by what weren't thy money? How about don't thou think that Jah shall judge upon thee upon the time him arose, that it might be judged upon earth upon the day when it are judged upon thee? Jah, who rules all, said, at that time thou wilt receive thy hardship like unto thy hand work. How about why do thou elevate thy reasoning? How about why do thou firm up the collar of reasoning? And I, man, shall pretend upon thee like unto thou pretended upon persons who weren't thy kindreds. For thou do what thou love, that thou might work sin, and I, man, shall neglect thee in a place where them sent thee.
Jah, who rule all, said, and I, man, shall do thus upon thee, him said. But if thou worked goodly work, and if thou love what I, man, loved, I, man, also shall have... Jah, who rule all, said, and I, man, shall do thus upon thee, him said. But if thou worked goodly work, and if thou love what I, man, loved, I, man, also shall hear thee in all that thou begged. And if thou fulfill I accord for I, man, shall fulfill thy accord for thee, I. And I, man, shall dispute thy enemies for thee, I. And I, man, shall bless thy children and thy seed for thee, I. I don't understand that I following thee.
No idea.
And I, man, shall multiply thy sheeps and thy cows, flocks for thee, I. And if thou live firmed up in I command, and also if thou did what I, man, love, Jah, who rule all, said, I, man, shall bless for thee, I, all thou seized in thy hand.
But if thou don't do I accord, if thou don't live firmed up in I law and I command, all this tribulation that were told formerly shall find thee. For thou didn't endure tribulation firmed up in I command, and for thou didn't live firmed up in I law, and thou can escape from my anger that will come upon thee every time. And as thou didn't love what I, man, loved, when I, man, am who I rated thee, bringing from not living toward living. And, all this were thy money, that thou might kill and heal, for do all that thou loved, that thou might work and demolish, that thou might honor and abuse, that thou might elevate and downbase. And as thou have neglected I worship and I praise, when I, man, am who gave thee lordship, and also honor alongside persons who are beneath thy authority, thou can escape from my anger that will come upon thee.
And I know this is long, but this is the last chapter of the book, so let's try and remain sane long enough to finish it.
Okay.
And if thou did Jah accord, and if thou live firmed up in a him command, him will love thee, I that thou might be irie with him in him lordship, and that thou might be a partaker with persons who inherited a honored country. For him have said, if them endure, I man will bequeath them, being I loved and honor. For I man shall make them irie in the temple where prior are prayed. For Jah who rule all have said, and them shall be I loved and chosen like unto a sacrifice. Don't neglect for to do work whereby welfare are done, and a goodly thing that Unu might cross from death toward life.
But persons who work goodly work, Jah shall keep them in all him goodly work, that them might be him slaves like unto Liob, whom Jah kept from all the tribulation. Jah shall keep them in all goodly work, that them might be him slaves for him, like unto Abraham, whom him saved upon the time him killed the kings, and like unto Muzzy, whom him saved from Canaan hand and Pharaoh hand, in whom Abraham lived, and who were also down disturbing him body evening and morning, night and day, that them might make him worship idols. For when them took him toward the idols, that them were money, him would endure the tribulation while him refused.
For Abraham, who believed him beginning from him childhood, were for Jah him trusted friend, and while him refused, him would worship Jah who I rated him. As totally loved Jah, him didn't quit worshiping Jah up till him dead, and him didn't depart from him law up till when him dead, and him taught children that them might keep Jah law. And like unto them father Abraham kept him law, them didn't depart from Jah law. Like unto him told for angel saying, I man have a friend in this world called Abraham. Abraham children Jacob and Ishak, who are him slaves became, whom Jah spoke, didn't depart from Jah law.
Jah, who are praised alongside them, and who rule all, said, Abraham are our friend, Ishak are our confidant, and Jacob are our friend, whom I reasoning loved. Okay. But when him totally loved Israel children, them lived when them continually saddened him, and him lived with him, endured them, and when him fed the manna in a wilderness, them clothes didn't age, for them had been fed manna, though our knowledge in Jura, and them feet didn't awaken.
And we are halfway through this now, so.
Woohoo!
Yeah. But them reasonings would distance from Jah every time. As them were who worked sin beginning from antiquity, them had no hope for be saved. Them became like unto a crooked bow, yet them didn't become like unto them fathers, Ishak and Abraham and Jacob, who served Jah into them beautiful way of life. Them would sadden him every time by them idols pawn the mountains and the hills. Them would eat pawn the mountain and at the caves and the trees' roots. So God doesn't like it when you eat in the mountains, he doesn't like it when you eat in a cave, and he doesn't like it when you eat tree roots.
How about with a fox? Or a mouse?
I don't know. What's he think about green eggs and ham?
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Them would slaughter a steer, them would sacrifice a sacrifice, and them would be ire in them hands' work. Them would eat the rest of the sacrifice, them would drink of them sacrifice, and them would play with demons while them sang.
And demons would admire all them games and them songs for them, and them would work them drunkenness and adultery without measure. And them would do the robbery and greed that Jah don't love. For Canaan's idols, and for Midian idols, and for Baal, and for Aphlon, and Dagon, and Seraphion, and Arthemades, who are Elophi idols, and for all people's idols in them area, them would sacrifice, and all Israel would worship idols, like unto people worship idols by money that them sight up and heard. Them would make them games and them songs and them bluster that peoples make.
All Israel kindreds do likewise, who say, We will worship Jah, without keeping him command and him law that Moses told them in a Orit, that them might keep Jah law and might distance from worshipping idols. What the hell could Orit be? I mean, we're talking about Moses. What the hell could Orit? It's not Egypt.
No idea.
Lest them worship separated idols apart from them fathers Iradar, who fed them the honey from Maga, who fed them the plantation grain and sent them forth toward the earth crops, and who fed them the manna. Muzzy commanded them, saying, Don't worship, for him are them Iradar, and for him feed them who loved him, and him won't deprive them who loved him and desired him.
So I'm just curious, what is Maga honey? I don't know. But them didn't quit saddening Jah, and them would sadden Jah upon the time him made them irie. And upon the time him saddened them would cry toward him, and him would save them from the tribulations that found them, and them would again be totally irie, and would live many eras. And at that time, them would totally return them heart toward sin, that them might sadden Jah like unto formerly, and him would arouse upon them peoples into them areas, that them might downstroy them, and them would worry and tax them.
Okay. And again, them would totally return and cry toward them, Iradar Jah, and him would forgive them. It are because them fathers, Noah, Yishak, and Abraham, and Jacob, who served Jah in a them beautiful way of life, beginning from antiquity, for whom him firmed up him oath, yet it aren't because them raw selves work that him forgive them. And him loved persons who kept him law, loving that them might multiply them children like unto heaven, stars, and sea sand. But upon the time dead ones arose, that them have like unto sea sand, them are sinner persons' souls that will separate from Israel children and enter toward Gehenna.
As Jah have told Abraham, sight up toward heaven at night, and count heaven's stars, as it were thou could count. Likewise, as him have told him, thy children and righteous ones shall shine in a heaven like unto heaven's stars. Them are like unto stars that shine in a heaven. But what them have are kind persons' souls birthed from Israel. And again, as him have told them, overstand toward the river's edge, and the sea, and sight up where what are amidst the sands, count as it where thou could count. I'm guessing the person can count?
Yeah.
But they're just going to pretend. Okay. And thy sinner children are likewise, who will downsend toward Gehenna upon the time dead ones arose. Them are sinner persons' souls. And Abraham believed in a Jah, because this thing it were counted for him being truth. Him found him moral into this world. And after him wife Sora aged, she birthed a child called Yishak.
For him have believed that persons who worked goodly works shall arise and go toward the kingdom of heaven, that lived firmed up forever. And again him shall find a kingdom in a heaven, But for him have believed that persons who worked sin shall go toward Gehenna, that live firmed up forever upon the time dead ones arose. But that righteous ones who worked goodly work, shall reign with him forever. But for him have believed that it shall be judged forever for true, without falsehood, upon persons who work sin, for him shall find life kingdom in a heaven. Make glory and praise in a for Jah, for true, without falsehood, and the first book that speak the Maccabeans thing were filled and fulfilled. Oh, God.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, at least that part's over.
Woof.
Yeah, we'll save book 2 for next time.
Oh, okay.
And I think I may do a simple... I'm gonna violate my whole thing about reading ahead. I think I'm gonna do a copy of this into a word processor and at least do a find and replace of some of these words so that we can, maybe have a little easier time reading some of it and it's slightly more intelligible.
Yep.
That's
an idea.
And it'll at least give us a contrast of, how it goes. But that's definitely enough for this evening.
Oh, yeah. I'm done.
Yeah.
It's been a long day, so.
Yeah. I know the feeling.
That's it for this episode of The Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, as well as just about anywhere else podcasts can be found. Many of the episodes are also on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter. @TParkAtheist is the show's Twitter handle. It's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fosnots.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.